What is up, everybody? Hey, Libertarian Dave here. I love them freedom songs, man. Awesome. Hey, it's already been a hell of a week, I'm telling you. I'm worn out. Homeschooling. Got city council meetings. They're talking all kinds of stuff, so libertarian related. So I've been busy. That's why I was kind of late getting on today. I'm like, man, I got to get something, and I really wanted to change the background. So yeah, but of course I couldn't get to that. So it's coming now. I'm gonna change this background, get this thing straight soon. Lots of stuff to talk about. There's a lot of stuff going on. So hello, Samuel. How you doing? So yeah, I'll take suggestions on the background. My camera's keeping crooked. I tell you, it's been a long day. So, yeah, I had to do another statement. I went to that Open Texas rally. We had I guess a little controversy come out of it. So they were talking about we were all going to get fined after the fact. They were going to, I guess, come and hand us fines at our house or something for violating the mayor's order. But instead, they fined the organizer of the rally, and they only fined him for not getting the proper permit, something like that. So we're all not getting fined after all. But it's just the kind of concept that people are complaining that we should have been fined for being outside with no mask on and within 6 feet of each other, that we're killing people or something. So it's been So I had to do a whole statement on that. So I think I'm going to read you the statement so you can kind of get an understanding of where I was coming from. I mean, it was a big controversy here in El Paso, and so here's my statement. Hello, my fellow patriots. I'm speaking to you as a libertarian and a believer in our Constitution and its design to limit government and protect our God-given rights. I've heard the advice throughout my life not to talk about politics or religion. This type of thinking has caused more problems than it has fixed. So I'm going to start this off with religion. A quote from Galatians 5:13, "For you were called to freedom, brothers. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another." That is the Bible's way of saying that with great freedom and liberty comes great responsibility. There's been a lot of controversy over the rally to reopen Texas that took place on Saturday, April 25th. I was there. It was a mostly peaceful protest. But I noticed something that disturbed me. Americans have differing opinions about how other Americans should behave. But instead of using the power of compassion and understanding to find common ground, they were striking out in anger and in hatred. These are the actions of the media, entertainers, and of politicians. This shouldn't be the actions of the citizens of this great country. And since then, I have heard even further division has taken place. I've heard people discussing the line in the Declaration of Independence that refers to the abolition of a government that no longer serves its people. Well, if you continue reading that great document, the very next paragraph specifies, "Prudence will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes." Transient being temporary, like pandemic. I'm calling on the people, the citizens, the Americans, the patriots to come together and find common ground in peace, whether Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, libertarian, or even the apathetic. We need to come together as a people to do what is right for all. We need to stop being swayed by political pandering and media over-exaggeration. I find that we have no trouble talking peacefully with our neighbors or our friends, even when they disagree with us politically. We don't let that destroy our relationships, and we should not let that destroy the relationships we have with fellow citizens. Some of you believe that our government was out of line, and is still out of line by choosing which businesses were essential, and by exercising the power to close them. I can agree with you. I want businesses to open. I want people to go back to work. And personally, I want to go back to church. Others of you feel that we need to stay home, that we need to do everything we can to protect those that are most vulnerable, that we should take extra precautions to ensure we don't increase the spread of this disease. I also agree with that. I have 2 small children, they have 3 elderly grandparents, and we all know somebody who's immune compromised. So this should be a high priority. This is what I mean by common ground. My only problem is with our government's reaction and the power that they have. As a healthy individual, I cannot be quarantined. I'm not sick. So therefore, I'm actually under house arrest without due process. My liberties have been restricted for a virus I may or may not have. The burden of proof that I have this contagion is on the institution that is threatening to limit my liberty. Looking at our government's reaction, I believe they are moving to restore our constitutional liberties now. Moving forward, we should look at why they had the power to take those liberties to begin with. I believe I represent the only party left that still believes in limited government and the power of the individual. Thank you for your time and understanding. I'm always available for comment, so I beg of you to remember these events and use your strongest weapon to fight back, the power of your voice as a voter. That they will listen to. So hey, that was my statement that's going to be going out this evening probably. I just got to put my letterhead on it, put a date on it, and send that out. I don't know what else to say. It's just really frustrating for me because even while I was out at that rally, I was trying to talk. It was mostly conservative Republicans out there, all these Trump signs and everything. And they're I guess you could call libertarian leaning conservatives. I mean, the chair of the El Paso Republican Liberty Caucus was there, and he's a really good guy, James Pinedo. And I talked to him, and we're on the same sheet of music, on most things. So there's a few different types of libertarians. Let me get that out in the front. So there's some libertarians that don't do nothing. They're just libertarians. They believe in libertarianism. They go out and they vote libertarian, and they try to live their lives as libertarians. They're also... And then there's libertarians that are activists, that go out and protest and petition the government and do all these things and start organizations like the Libertarian Christian Institute. That's really an institute of activists, although some of them do run for offices. And then there's those who, and these can or cannot belong to the actual Libertarian Party or not. They may or may not support the Libertarian Party as a national party or not. That's just their belief system is in libertarianism. And then there's those who actually campaign and are part of the actual party. And then there's some beyond that, like Mr. Pinedo, he's a libertarian, but he is chosen to try to increase libertarian philosophy within the two old parties. So he's not part of the Libertarian Party. He's a Republican, but he is trying to get the Republicans to shift their focus to more libertarian philosophy. So there's a lot of libertarians out there that are within the other old parties that are trying to shift their parties towards the middle, instead of being so far left or so far right, trying to bring them back towards the middle. So I kind of see myself as the libertarian in the middle that is trying to pull them both towards the middle. So hey, 5th grade class, how's it going? I got a lot of stuff, man, about these rallies, about them starting to open up the economy again, and as you can see, I don't know if you saw my thumbnail, but it's like, oh, thank you, Big Daddy Government, for giving me permission to go outside again. So I guess, we're calming down now. Oh, yeah, everything's going to be fine. We told you that if you listened to us, then we would flatten the curve and everything would be okay. So, yeah, it's so it's been a crazy week. So, yeah, we had this, then I've been listening to city council meetings for the past 2 days. It was a 10-hour working session yesterday. I didn't listen to the whole 10 hours, but I jumped on there at the very end by coincidence. And, anytime I say something's by coincidence, I mean that I see coincidence as a communication from God. That's what coincidence is. That's sometimes how God just plants stuff for you to know. So I suggest if you ever have something that pops up as a coincidence in your life, really look at it carefully. It might be pretty important. So anyways, just by coincidence, I turned on the working session last night, and they were talking about cite and release for minor marijuana abuses in El Paso. And I was like, well, that's a step in the right direction. I mean, anything that's pointing in the direction of decriminalizing marijuana completely is good with me. I don't know if you saw my 420 video, but I think that explains a lot. So, so it was just funny. Exactly a week after 420, they actually have this discussion about cite and release, and they already have this first strike or first chance rule here in El Paso, where they can kind of cut you some slack if you first offender or whatever. So if you weren't committing any other crime in the process. So yeah, so I was all involved with that too. Yeah, he's Volv should be in pretty soon. What else was I going to talk about? I got some notes here. The really reaching across the aisle thing is really I want to do. I'm not really trying to bring in. I'm not really worried about allies, man. I mean, when I was out at the rally on Saturday, I was trying to talk. This is what I was trying to get to about the Republicans being out there. Was I was trying to talk to them and explain to them that. So what happened is there was a building right behind us. We were in this parking lot right across the street from the county courthouse. There was this building, an apartment building right behind us, and these people had put in the windows these paper. It was just regular, this size paper, but they had wrote stuff on it, and there was like 5 of them. And it said, "Go home, you idiots." Something like that. "Go home, you idiots," and then something else, I think. So everybody saw it and was like, "Oh, that's cool, whatever." So and it made the news. And then this lady sticks her head out the window and starts yelling down at the people that are at the rally or protest or whatever you might call it. So then they get the whole. Somebody, I don't know if it was the organizer, but they get the whole line of protesters to go over there and start yelling back at her, man. And I'm like, what good are we doing, man? Oh, yeah, what good? What positive outcome could possibly come from that action? You know what I mean? You're not reaching out to people. You're pushing people away. And I don't understand that. This is what politicians do when they're debating. The feeding on emotion, negative emotion. That's what the media does. And then the pulling at your little heartstring stuff. That's what the entertainers do, usually in support of the media. But, it's just frustrating because I know that that's not how you reach people. The first thing you got to do if you want to reach somebody is you have to get through that barrier. You have to become friends with them. At least enough to where they're going to listen to you. You got to build enough rapport with somebody to where they'll actually listen to your side. And the only way you're going to do that is really to listen to their side and to understand where they're coming from. So I don't think that was it. Wasn't as productive as I wished it would have been. I was kind of saddened that I didn't see any Democrats out there. Because this was really about standing up for our constitutional rights. And I'm sorry, but Democrats and Republicans of any political organization in the United States should be, I don't know, I would think that they should be standing up for the document that was the foundation of this great country, that this country has become strong, so strong, based off the philosophies of this document. And this is not a time, there's never going to be a time where we should not be standing up in support of that document. And the document I'm talking about is the Constitution of the United States. The one document that launched us into a superpower probably faster than any other empire in the history of the world. I mean, it's just... I mean, there's a reason for that. So yeah, there's that. So I guess the fear is dissipating out there about the virus. The politicians and stuff are claiming victory. Victory! Only victory here is God's victory. That's it. Nobody has achieved victory in this except God, because there still is no cure. The only cure is the human body, and that human body is the machine built by God. So God's victory is the only victory we have. And this flattening the curve ridiculousness is hilarious, since all the hospitals are empty. Yeah, we flattened the curve, all right, didn't we? So, what has the government really done? I'm going to play a video. I'm going to have to dig it up again. So really good. It's a 4-minute video. And it's really just audio. So I'm going to play the audio. And it's about... Ninja. Come on now. Don't say that. So the video is NPR. It kind of sums up a little bit of a libertarian. It's from the guy from the Cato Institute, talking about the libertarians' reaction to the coronavirus. So I'll bring that one up. It's interesting. Hold on one second. I hope this isn't a video. What the? Okay. Yeah, I'll have to come back to that. Sorry about that. You know, I updated this to the new Facebook thing. It seems to be really slow. Is it just me? Or maybe it's just because I blocked Facebook from tracking my outside Facebook stuff. I saw that somewhere. Facebook tracks your outside Facebook activity. I mean, why do they just assume that that's what we want? Shouldn't they ask permission to do that stuff? I don't understand. I mean, that's my privacy, right? That's my activity. So, I think we have a Volvy here. No, we have a G Liberty here. Have a seat, buddy. You can be my interviewer. So, what do you think about the corona?
It will kill you when you maybe get next to it.
Are you scared?
No.
No? He's not scared. Even though it'll kill you if you get next to it. I don't know where you're getting that stuff from. Who's that?
Pastor?
No, it's not Pastor.
I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
They say Trump's approval rating for the handling of the coronavirus is down to 51% now. Found that interesting. Okay, here we go. Let's have a listen to this real quick.
But now you've probably seen demonstrations popping up around the country against stay-at-home orders
There's
issued
no
by
visual.
government officials in an effort to stop the spread of the coronavirus. And you've also seen that many of these demonstrators are refusing to follow the guidelines laid out by officials to avoid large gatherings, to stay 6 feet apart, wear face coverings and the like. Well, some people say they're demonstrating because they can't afford to shut their businesses or stop going to work. Others are making the point that these demands violate their freedom. And we wanted to dig into those arguments for a few minutes, which are generally described as libertarian. We wanted to get a libertarian perspective on this from someone who also has a background in health policy, and that led us to Michael Cannon, who is the Director of Health Policy Studies at the Cato Institute, which is based here in Washington, D.C. Michael Cannon, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, the Cato Institute says it's dedicated to the principles of individual liberty, limited government, free markets, and peace.
Yes.
So as briefly as you can, what is the role of the government in a health crisis like this one, according to those principles?
Well, it's the same thing as the role of government when there is a health crisis, which is to protect us from people who would do us harm. And when there is a deadly contagious disease that is spreading throughout the public, there can be a role for government to take additional steps that it wouldn't take during ordinary times in order to prevent people from harming each other with that deadly virus. Now, what those steps are is a different question and a very complicated one, but most libertarians do agree that there is a role for government to play in a pandemic.
So let's talk specifically about the government orders mandating the use of masks in certain situations like grocery stores or pharmacies, these social distancing mechanisms. Is there something wrong with that in your view?
Oh, geez.
Well, it's a very difficult balancing act because nobody knows just how deadly it is. Nobody knows just how much additional good each of these individual measures that the government wants to implement are going to do in terms of reducing the incidence of transmissions of this deadly disease versus how much harm those measures will do in terms of harming people's livelihoods or even leading to interactions with police that could themselves lead to harmful situations.
So you're familiar with the expression, your right to swing your fist ends at my nose. So an infection is an assault on the body. So why shouldn't the government be able to ask people or even require people to take these minimal steps to avoid assaulting other people with this virus?
It should take steps to do that, but you have to keep in mind that what we're talking about are decisions and costs and benefits that are occurring at the margin. Now, what I mean by that is if you look at the data from Google about how much people are moving around or social distancing, you'll find that before the government issued any of these orders that people had to shelter in place, stay at home, or shut down businesses were telling people to work from home. People were avoiding each other. So the question becomes, given the responses that people are going to undertake on their own, what marginal benefit is the government going to be able to yield by issuing a stay-at-home order or requiring people to wear masks? Because it may not reduce transmission very much at all if people are already doing all of those things themselves.
Well, we already seen some of these demonstrators in Wisconsin. There were thousands of people who were at these rallies who did not undertake any of the self-protective.
Okay, so this is an example, and he doesn't even hit on it. That's why I paused it right here. This is a Cato Institute guy. This is a big-time guy. He doesn't even catch this, but I caught it the first time she said it. There's thousands of people rallying in Wisconsin because the government shut everything down and quarantined everybody. Well, that tells you right there what happens when the government intervenes. Now we have thousands of people that are crowded into an area to protest that. So you actually just caused more harm than you did good, and that's always what happens when the government intervenes with something. So the government is trying to keep people spread out and distanced away from them, and by shutting down businesses and by quarantining people in their houses. Basically, it's house arrest because you're not sick. You only quarantine the sick. We're not all Typhoid Mary. Look up Typhoid Mary. She got quarantined on an island because she was a carrier. But anyways, so the government does all of this, and it basically brings everybody together in a big giant crowd to protest it all over the country. So if the government hadn't intervened at all, then that protest in Wisconsin or in downtown El Paso or anywhere else would have never happened. So anyways, continue.
That the government has asked them to take. So then how can you say that if the government were merely to suggest these things, people would do it?
Well, I'm
he does
not
make
sure
a good
that
point here.
Everyone would, but there is something to be said for the government might get more people to comply if it were asking or suggesting rather than mandating.
But isn't the government's mandate part of a social contract? What the government is saying is that we expect people to have some mutual obligation at this moment. In exchange for that mutual obligation, I mean, that is why the government is offering, say, financial support for individuals who have been harmed by this. I mean, is what you're saying we should wait?
The government the reason why we're getting this financial support is because the government realizes that it has to pay for the consequences of its own actions. So its own actions being the shutdown of the economy, the government knows that it is liable. It has to have some kind of response to that economic shutdown. That's the only reason there's a financial response from the government, is because it was a shutdown. Now, that's going to cost us tremendously in the end. $2.2 trillion, and well, actually, it's up to like $2.6 trillion now. So they just keep tacking on $500 billion at a time. You know, it's crazy, but that's going to end up costing us more in the long run. So we'll continue listening while Evolve gets comfortable.